Hello, welcome to the second part of the free human design training. We're here 2 weeks later. It's all good. It's all gravy. I'm sitting in front of a window, so it's a little bit bright, but that's great too. So I hope you caught up on the last training. If you didn't, you can find it below. I'll pop the link there too. The last training, we were really talking about like where you begin with human design, especially about the embodiment of human design. Often, what I see on Instagram and everywhere else is that human design is taught in a way that's conceptualized, or it's logical, or we're using our intelligence or our mind or our brain to figure out how to be a projector, be a generator, be a manifesting generator. And what happens with that is a lot of frustration, confusion, and lack of actually living your design. And that's why people get really confused and frustrated with human design, because they're using it as a logical process. So I talked all about that last time, about how human design really should be something that we feel in our body, and we move around the world and we experiment and we test things and we look deeper to see, how did that affect me? And if that's in my design, how come I don't resonate with that? Like, what is that? And when I feel like I want to do this thing, for example, people pleasing or something like that, why is that? Is that conditioning? Where am I feeling conditioning? What does that feel like? It's an exploration, human design. And the reason why it's an exploration and why it's so great is because it's leading you deeper into understanding your true self. And I'm not saying that human design is the only way to get there. I'm not saying that human design should be the only thing that you focus on. In fact, when you only focus on human design, that also leads to people feeling confused and frustrated. I definitely did that for a long time. And also, like, to look at the positive aspects of your design too, because I meet a lot of people, particularly projectors actually, who only look at the negative aspect of their design. So they're like, I'm a projector. That means I have no energy. That means I can't really do anything. I have to sit here and wait until I'm invited. And when you experiment with things, you discover how to be a projector in a positive way. And being a projector is super positive. Like, we're going through this mutation, and we reach the point of the pinnacle in 2027, where projectors are really going to be like pitted as the leaders, the guides, the leaders, and the people of the future. And how great is that? If that's not a positive of being a projector, I don't know what is. So try and stay positive about your design. Yes, there is things in your design that you can look at and it might feel quite negative, like conditioning, but there's always ways to work through that, through awareness, through feeling things in your body, through healing, all of that sort of stuff. And that's a beautiful invitation to do that. So last week we were talking about the embodiment, and I was saying, like, go out, experiment, like, test things, experience life as your type. And we very much like focused on the type, whatever your type is: a generator, monogen, projector, reflector, manifester. But move around the world as that and feel what that feels like, and allow the questions to come up. If I'm a generator, how come? If I'm a manifesting generator, how come? Often what I see as well is that because we see a lot of those posts on Instagram that are quite quite prescriptive, I can't say the word, we try to either wedge ourselves into that, and it's like, I should be more like that, what it's saying on Instagram that a manifesting generator is. And that's not living your design. And the second thing that I see people doing when they see those Instagram posts, they're like, how come I don't resonate with this? How come I don't feel this though? Like, it says that should happen for a manifesting generator, but it's not happening for me. And I don't feel like that's ever happened for me in my life. The reason for that is is because you only discovered design maybe just now, maybe last week, maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago, whatever it is, right? And I'm presuming that you're not a child right now watching this, you're an adult, right? So you've had your entire adult life from 0 to right now. I'm 42. I'm just about to go. I'm 41. I do this every time. I'm just about to turn 42. Next month. Hello, Sagittarius season. I'm so happy about it. So from 0 to when I discovered design like 2-3 years ago, about 3 years ago, age 39. All of that time, I've moved through the world without understanding or even knowing human design exists, right? So throughout that time, I've created beliefs, I've created conditioning. Society has helped me along with that. Thank you. My parents have helped me along with creating conditioning. I've had a lived experience for 42 years, 39 years, sorry. And all of the experience that you have in your life are about rules and things that you've been told you should do, and the way your parents brought you up, the way your teachers taught you, the way you see things in society. All of that is like a lived experience, right? And you've built up a set kind of beliefs, and you've built up a set of shoulds, and you've built up a set of rules, and you've built up even in your body and your nervous system has its own pattern, all created because of that, you know. And if you had trauma, for example, when you were younger or when you were an adult, that is also lodged in your body as an emotion or a set of beliefs, or your nervous system has held on to that. So when we look at things in human design and we look at Instagram and it says manifesting generator, blah, 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 and we're like, I don't resonate with that. That doesn't feel like me. Know that that is true for you, right? You do not have to be like, what is wrong with me? Because that's not what I feel like. There must be something wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. The way that it's talking about a manifesting generator, and this is why I did that post on Instagram saying Instagram human design is not helping you. The reason for that is people are reading those posts, and that post, manifesting generator should feel blah, 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 is taken from an example of if someone had lived and was born as a manifesting generator and lived their life as a manifesting generator, right? Which is very rare. Only now that we're having babies and children coming into the world where people are starting to be like, oh, my daughter is a projector, I really want to help to understand her so I can like support her, etc. So those kids that are coming into the world are now understanding like they're going to be living mostly as that type if their parents are there to support them and help them along. They're still going to get conditioned, you know. But you can look at Instagram human design, those prescriptive, there's that word again, those posts, and say, that's not me, so therefore there's something wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you. You just had a learned set of beliefs along the way. You've lived your life, you know. And interestingly enough, and she's probably watching this, but one of my clients, she's a manifesting generator, and she was brought up by 2 projectors. And projectors who don't know how to live their design and they don't understand what it is to be a projector can be quite, they love rules. Projectors love rules. Projectors love judging. Projectors love to have everything in its box. Projectors are not so great at playtime and things like that. So my client who's managing, she was brought up by 2 projectors. So one of the things that we worked through was, how come a lot of the things that I'm seeing on Instagram as a manifesting generator don't resonate with any of that sort of stuff? And that's why, you know, her learned behavior, her past experience was being brought up by 2 projectors as a manifesting generator, which would lead her to almost act more as a projector. And in fact, before she started working with me, she sent me a DM and she said, I don't resonate with being a manifesting generator. I feel like a projector. That's why. That's conditioning. That's imprinting right there. So what happens is, I want you to like take the advice you're seeing on Instagram in those posts as, yes, you can get a dopamine hit. And I love that, you know, where you're like, ooh, I love how being a projector means that I love luxury. It's a thing. It's the thing. We don't do cheap as projectors. And you can take that and be like, love that for me. And you can take that like dopamine hit from that. And I love that. But don't then see the ones that feel like they don't resonate and be like, there's something wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you at all. That post is being taken from the basis, the foundation that that person lived as a manifesting generator their entire life. You know, it's taken as a prescription of what we read when we're taught as human design consultants and readers and teachers. That's what we're taught, right? It doesn't mean that anyone is living that completely because, like I say, the whole life experience beforehand. Anyway, that's kind of what today's session is about, because I feel like that needs to get out there. I teach human design. I don't teach human design at all, actually. I'm not a human design teacher. Yes, I'm trained as a human design reader, consultant, teacher. I don't teach. I show people the way in terms of like their life experience, and we talk about like, where have you been blocked and where's the conditioning, and maybe you could try this way and all of that sort of stuff. I'm never saying to someone, you're a manifesting generator, so you should. That's not what I do. I reflect back at the person and say, do you feel like this is something that happens to you in your life, etc. And we find a way of using energy better. I'm a projector. I'm very efficient and very deep at understanding other people's energy. So I'm never going to teach in that way where I'm going to say, manifesting generators this, generators this. That's not what I do. So yeah, that's kind of what the class is about. But today, I wanted to talk to you about the next part of the process once you've been sort of playing around and experimenting with your type, which you should have done if you watched the last class, right? And I want to say, like, living your design does not take a week or a month. It takes a long time. It takes a lifetime. Your lifetime is an experimentation of living your design. You get it wrong sometimes, but you learn, you know? For example, as a projector moving around the world, waiting for an invitation, scrap the waiting, by the way. But also as a projector, like, who's an emotional, my life now, and people often message me who know me quite well, you know, whether it's through socials or whatever, they're like, I love the fact that you live your design. And sometimes that can be really difficult in terms of the format that we've been given on Instagram of how to sell or how to run a business or how to live our lives. The way I do it is very different, and it can cause me to feel sometimes like, maybe I shouldn't do this because like this is out of the norm. For example, as an emotional and a closed taste and an inner vision. And I have the channel of judgment as well, 1858. I always find that sometimes I want to do something that feels really good in the moment, and then the next second, this is my closed taste. The next second, I'm like done with that and I'm moving on to something else. Or I say I want to do something, I didn't ride my emotional wave as long as perhaps I thought I should have. And I might put it out on Instagram, and then I'm like, oh, my emotional wave is like, no, now 2 days later. So we have to pull that back. Now I have to say I don't do that as much anymore, but it's all an experiment. There's no right way to do this. You just got to test it. But know that the reason for you testing an experiment and to live your design, to embody it, is because on the other side, when you do embody your design, it's the better way of you utilizing your energy. It's the better way of working. It's the better way of you finding success. It's the better way of you feeling satisfied. You know, it's the easy way to live your life once you get past the initial, like, this is weird, I don't want to wait for an invitation, you know, all of this sort of stuff. So let me pull up my chart, because we're gonna look today at the next part of the embodiment. Where's my chart gone? I did this last time, didn't I? I've got too many tabs open. Excuse me. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is my chart, right? I'm kind of only showing you my chart so you don't have to just stare at my face for the rest of this class. Honestly, projectors are a little bit funny about that. They're like, sometimes they love the attention and sometimes they're like, please don't look at me. If you follow projectors on Instagram, you'll see a lot of projectors often don't even show their faces. I'm thinking of Nadia Gabrielle, who I love. She runs Projectors Invited. You very rarely see her face at all, and sometimes projectors are a little bit like that, especially hermits, 2 lines. So last time we were talking about you going out and embodying your type, which seems a little bit awkward, but all I wanted you to do was experiment with what it felt like to be a generator, or a mani-gen, or a manifestor, or a reflector, or a projector, and just like move around the world and ask yourself questions and almost like be inquisitive about how that felt for you, right? The next step of living your design really is, really want to say profile here, which I love the profiles, but really the next step is your strategy and authority. I was talking to someone yesterday and I was saying, like, without a strategy and without you living strategy and authority, you have no foundation. The strategy and the authority is what holds all of the rest of your design together. When you skip that, you have no foundation for any of this other stuff to land on. And that's why it gets overwhelming for people, right? Excuse me. So you really want to like focus on your strategy, and authority is super important. Boring. That's generally the vibe that I get from people. It's kind of like when you have a load of, I'm going to use a Christmas analogy because we're coming up to that season. There's tons of Christmas presents under the tree. And there's some there that you already know that you're getting because your mum told you, or you asked for them, like a pair of socks because you really need some more socks. That's such a dad thing, isn't it? And you skip the socks, even though you know you need them, because you're like, oh, I'll just do that at the end because I already know what's in that package and it's kind of boring. I know I need it, but whatever. And you go straight for the biggest package, the shiniest package, and all the other little ones that you just don't know what they're about because they're like surprises. And you're like, and you start to open all of those and you're like, wow, wow, wow. But without the socks, like, for example, you might get a pair of shoes. Without the socks, you're not going to wear the shoes. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you need to have the socks before you wear that pair of boots, right? Because otherwise everything's going to be like, you might get blisters and it's going to rub and it's going to feel kind of awkward. Like, and if it rains, you're going to have squelchy feet and all of this sort of stuff, right? You need the socks. Essentially, this is such a weird analogy. This is me all over. So you got to have the socks, guys, is what I want to say. You need to have the foundation. Without the strategy and authority, you don't have the foundations. And I know all of this stuff, super cool. That's why my part of my purpose here is to work with human design, because it's super cool. Like today I was looking at all the transits, super cool. I love all that stuff. I love seeing all of this, right? But the thing is, when you start to jump forwards and you start to put on the brand new boots without any socks, you can almost guarantee you're going to get blisters. And then you're going to be like, well, that sucks. And now I don't want to wear the boots anymore. I hate the boots. Whereas if you'd wore the comfy, cozy socks first, all of this, the new boots, the new shiny boots, will feel so much more comfortable, right? So don't jump forwards. I know it's enticing to do that. Like, you look at these conscious sun, conscious Mercury that particular people talk about all the time, looking at all of these gates and things like that. I know it's super enticing. It says a lot about you, but you're never going to live your design by conceptualizing what these gates mean. That's not living your design. That's you thinking and researching information that's outside of you, right? It all starts with you embodying, experimenting your design, which means that you want to live your strategy and authority first. Okay. Okay, what does that mean? No, what does that mean? So you want to pick up your strategy and authority. For example, if you're a projector, you're waiting for the invitation. I love how Genetic Matrix says, wait for recognition. Love that. And an invitation, right? So you're waiting for that. And your authority is whatever your authority is. Could be splenic if you're a projector. There's 5 different ones for projectors. Most likely, if you're a sacral being, you've got sacral authority or an emotional authority, etc. So what does that mean then? You're going to make your decisions and move around the world using that. So if you've got sacral, you're going to have that yes, no gut response. If you're splenic, you're going to get that intuitive feeling that it's the right thing to do. If you're an emotional like me, you're going to ride your wave, which can be really frustrating sometimes. I feel like I miss out on some things because I'm still sitting on it to see if it's the right thing for me to do. And know that if you are an emotional and you're sitting on your wave, or you're sitting on a decision to find clarity and it's gone by the time you've decided, probably wasn't for you anyway. And this is the thing on Instagram, especially this week around Black Friday, is that everything is moving very, very fast, which is interesting actually, because we're in gate 34 this week, which is quite a busy energy. Everything moves really, really fast, and it's like, do this now, sign up now, blah, blah, blah. Doors closing tomorrow, doors closing in 24 hours, doors closing in 12 hours, whatever it is. One, that's like not so great for your nervous system because it heightens up your nervous system. And actually, when you heighten your nervous system, you can't tell the difference between anxiety and excitement. So you might end up investing a lot of money or investing in something from a place of anxiety because it feels so, and you're mistaking it for excitement. You think you're excited about it, in fact you're not. You're just feeling anxious because of the energy, and you go into something having invested in it going, actually I'm not sure I wanted to do this, sorry, there's a motorbike outside. Hopefully that'll leave now in 2 seconds. Yes, it's gone. So yeah, be aware of that. Like, that's a sales tactic to heighten the nervous system because of that, because we move when we have excitement, but it could be anxiety, right? And if you're an emotional, it can be quite difficult because there's things that perhaps you feel like you might want to invest in, and then on Instagram they're like, you've got 24 hours, doors closing. That's not enough time for you to sit in your emotions, not sit in your emotions, but ride your wave and see if it's the right thing for you, which means that for me, I'm always like, well, if they're only giving me 24 hours to invest $2,000 in something, then it's not for me. Bye-bye. Okay, so this week or 2 weeks, depending on how long it takes for me to come back, and next time is going to be the last one. This is a 3-part series. I decided that last week because I'm giving you a whole lot of free value here, This is stuff that I would teach clients. And obviously with clients I go way deeper and it's very individualized. But yeah, we're doing 3 parts. So I want you this week and next week, if it takes me 2 weeks, to start to play around with your strategy and authority. Start to have a go. If you get it wrong, the world does not end. If you get it wrong, you learn something. For example, if I didn't, oh my God, all emotionals know this. When they don't give themselves time and they don't ask people can you just wait and give me some time to decide? And they dive right in. Often what happens is like the next day, they're like, oh, that sinking feeling of like, I shouldn't have said I would do that. Oh, I shouldn't have spent that money. Don't actually want to do it. I invested in a training a year ago. It's quite expensive. I've done the first 2 lessons, and I haven't wanted to do it. I did it in the moment because I thought that I wanted to do it. I didn't ride my wave. like I say, it was over a year ago, and I was still like at the beginning, almost within the first year of my experiment. Now, like I'm past 2 years in, things are much easier. But play around with your strategy and authority. For example, if you're a generator and you're responding, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? How does that become easier when you respond? Play around with that. And the same for like reflectors are waiting 28, 29 days of the moon cycle. I can guarantee you, if you're a reflector and you're waiting 28, 29 days of the moon cycle, that shit is coming up for you around that. Like, why do I have to wait? What's the purpose of waiting? What's the point? But that's part of your experiment, to see what beliefs are coming up around that, because it's conditioning, but also to see what happens when you don't wait. You have to make mistakes too when you're living your design, otherwise you don't learn. I remember, we're not just doing this for the sake of it. We're doing this because when we embody our design, it makes it way easier for us to live our lives. Everything becomes way easier. When I embody my design more, like especially being a 2/4, things come to me. It gets way easier. People come and invite me. For example, I was talking to a couple of people in the DMs a couple of days ago about having projector kids. This is something I've been asked quite a few times. And that turned into an invitation, because someone said, if you ever teach a class on this, I would definitely invest in it. Right? So I never went out there and was like, I wonder, like, do people want to learn about projector children? No, somebody invited me to teach that, right? It comes naturally, I promise you. And oftentimes we need to get rid of the wait, because this is in a lot of strategies, like wait to respond. Especially with generators who are waiting to respond, you really need to get rid of the waiting, because it's happening all the time. It's happening all the time. You're always responding, look at that billboard. Cool. I wouldn't mind like going to that place. Oh, wow, that tree is so pretty. It's all a response. It never stops, right? So this week / 2 weeks, I want you to go out and start to embody your strategy and authority and get it wrong. Because when you get it wrong, you learn. When you get it wrong, you're like, oh, no wonder I have an emotional wave, because I've just said yes to something that I really don't want to do now. No wonder. And living your strategy and authority takes boundaries, and it brings up a lot of like stuff for people in terms of beliefs, conditioning. Oh, but I should do it this way. That's not how you can't tell people to wait. Like, no way. Like, they're not going to wait for me. Well, if they don't wait for you, they're not right. They're not the right people for you, So play around with it. How do you find out your strategy and authority? I should have said that if you're brand new, you're going to go into your chart. I would recommend, if you're brand new, to get your chart from Jovian Archive, potentially myhumandesign.com, because it's going to really like be very clear about what your strategy and authority is. I use this because there's lots of different cool things I can do. Like, I can change things on here, and I use this for my clients, and all my clients are down here, which I'm not going to scroll down and show you, and all of that sort of stuff. But basic charts, a good place to go are Jovian Archive and myhumandesign.com, and it's going to spell it out for you, your strategy and authority. Right, there's only 5 of them, because there's 5 types, as in 5 strategies. Authorities is 5 different types if you're a projector, and then we've got emotional, sacrals, all of that. And you're going to look at those 2 things, and you're going to play around with them. You might need to, this is not me telling you go and Google the shit out of your chart. This is me saying you might want to Google what is wait for recognition. You can look on Jovian Archives. There's loads of free trainings on there. But the purpose of me doing this training is for people that already know their design, and it's fine if you don't. But how to embody it rather than conceptualize. That's why we're doing this. So yeah, have a look on Google if you don't know what it is. If you don't know what it is and you weren't watching the training last week, know that at the moment you can get 20% off foundational readings with me. And you just use the code email list. I'm going to put it at the bottom of this email too. So you get 20% off, which is around 40 quid off a foundational reading. Foundational readings are for people who've never had a reading before. They're different from a human design session. Human design sessions, we kind of look at the chart as a whole and really pick out the things that are important, perhaps for a question that you had about your life or your business or whatever it is. It's very much an intuitive session. Foundational readings are more structured. We go through your type, profile, authority, your strategy, etc. And it really is the starting point of you really starting to live your design and understand your design. They're an hour long, and they're 119, but at the moment you get it 20% off only if you're doing this training, because it's only for people on the email list. So with that said, have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, nobody asked me any questions last time, but be sure to put them in the comments on YouTube, or I know that no one else can access the video on YouTube. It's only for email list subscribers. Or drop me a DM. And if you want to book a foundational reading, use the code email list, all caps, one word, and I'll put the link below. And have a great day.